Welcome back to Inside Richmond Football right here in Radio Troy Digital Sports. Great to have you with us as we get set for what is now the last 2 weeks of the high school football season. Red Devils coming off a loss last week to a very, very good Lafayette Jeff football team. This week it'll be the Anderson Indians coming to town for a 7 o'clock kickoff time. Head coach Tony Lewis back with us again this week. Coach, let's go back to Friday, and boy, that's a pretty good football team. We talked about it the week before. It was kind of like playing a video game, and it really kind of turned out that way too.
It was. You know, they've got a quarterback that can throw it all over the field. They've got a lot of athletes, a good offensive line, and they get you in a bunch of different formations quickly, where your defense has to get lined up quickly, which we in the first quarter we didn't do a good job of. After that, I thought we started lining up correctly and getting set defensively, but they've got a lot of athletes, just as many probably as Lawrence North or more.
Yeah.
Obviously, we played Marion with a lot of athletes, and this team, I think, would favor comparably to Marion. I think that would be a heck of a game between those two teams.
Yeah, Coach, when they line up that quickly, and again, I was having a hard time myself just watching them get right back up. It was within seconds.
Oh, yeah.
That is a tough adjustment for your defense.
It is, and we talked to our kids during the week about them getting lined up quickly, but you cannot simulate it in practice because your scout team is not going to get lined up as quickly as that team gets lined up. So, they're great. They're well coached. First and foremost, one of the things that really impressed us was how well the receivers block.
Yeah.
They do a great job of blocking on the perimeter. Their stalk blocking is, I told the coach before the game, it's the best stalk blocking team I've seen, and we'll probably steal some of the things that they do in terms of how they stalk block. But they're big physical kids.
Yeah.
They've got some dudes that can run. They've got some guys that run the ball well, and obviously the quarterback's a trigger man, and he does a great job throwing the ball.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, and they have a lot of seniors too. That senior night seemed like it took forever, and they just rolled out one senior after. I think it was over 20-some seniors they had. So
they do. They have a big team, and unfortunately for us, the quarterback's a junior. Some of their other athletes are juniors, but they've got some good players, and the coach is doing a great job there. And obviously, long bus ride and get up there. And I forgot how windy northern Indiana is, so that was an adjustment too as well. So it wasn't obviously what we wanted it to turn out the way we wanted it to turn out last Friday night, but we got out of it without any injuries, going into a game with Anderson at home for our senior night.
Coach, you also, Wyatt did not play, and again, when you don't have your top running back, they kind of know that too, and they're pinning the ears back, and here they come, right?
They are, and we don't know that there's a good chance we won't have Wyatt this week as well. So we'll just, it's a next man up mentality. We'll see what we can do there. Quavion and this week, Evan Crisp, guest, will probably get some runs in practice as well. DeMarco ran the ball quite a bit for us on Friday night. So we'll get all three of those guys reps, and we just got to do a better job blocking up front.
Coach, evaluate Zach a little bit last week. Just talk about his second week under quarterback, and again, that's a tough defense to go against as well.
It is. They put a lot of pressure on Zach. I think he took some shots early in the half that he was struggling a little bit. Came out of halftime, did a little bit better job in the second half, but we've got to hold up better as an offensive line, and I think it's a learning experience. As the coaches and I were talking about halftime, with Zach being a little bit banged up, as I told the coaches, he needs to play through this. He's going to get banged up. Quarterbacks take shots, and he's got to learn to stand in there. And we've got to do a better job as quarterbacks getting rid of the ball quickly. Some of our combinations, our receivers are not running their routes as quickly as they need to, but even with that, he's got to anticipate where they're going to be and throw the ball with anticipation as opposed to throwing the ball once the receiver comes open.
Yeah. When you speak of your offensive line, talk a little bit about those five, and I don't know how often they blitzed against you. It happened a couple of times, but just from that standpoint, they were, again, coming after you. I mean, there's no doubt about it. When you talk to your offensive line, how do you try to keep them in their composure level, knowing that, listen, it's going to come, you got to be ready?
Right. Well, it's something that with what they did to us in the week of practice when they bring double A gap blitzes, we had to change our protection. Zach would come up and say easy, easy, and we'd change our protection. But I think the biggest thing for our kids is with our offensive line, all our pass protection is a zone pass protection, and a lot of times our kids get mistaken that I'm blocking a man as opposed to you're blocking an area, and whoever comes in that area, that's who you have. You don't block a man. So most of our schemes are zone blocking schemes with our pass protection. There are times that we do have a fan protection where you have a man, but that's where our kids kind of get confused sometimes.
Coach, on the special team side, and I feel really bad for the young man. I feel bad for you guys as a football team that you have a freshman that's trying to take over those punting duties. It's not an easy thing to do, number one, and it's putting you kind of behind the eight ball many times in field position, but it's something you have to deal with right now.
We do, and we unfortunately lost a player who's no longer with us, and then our backup who has a good leg, Gage Peterball hurt his knee against Marion. We may have Gage back this week, hopefully. We'll see. He has a brace and everything, so we'll see if he can practice this week. But it is putting John Carter in a little bit of a bind. He's somebody that has kicked in the past, but that was as a middle schooler.
That's right.
And it's also putting us in a bind in terms of not kicking extra points and having to go for two every time. So if we can get Gage back this week, that'll definitely help us in the special teams.
All right. Red Devils will be home this week, and, of course, the tournament draw is coming up as well. We'll talk about both those aspects of Richmond football coming up in just a couple of moments right here on Radio Troy Digital Sports.
The Indiana Football Hall of Fame in Richmond, Indiana was founded in 1973. Its mission is to honor the men and women who have excelled in high school, college, or professional football based on their coaching, athletic ability, citizenship, scholarship, and significant supporting contributions to the game of football. The Indiana Football Hall of Fame includes retrospection from Indiana's prestigious football history, from the late 1800s to the present. When you visit the hall, you'll see the names like Weebu Bank, Vegas Ferguson, Newt Rockne, and Lamar Lundy. The Indiana Football Hall of Fame is located at 815 North A Street in Richmond and is open Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. until 5 p.m. There is no entrance fee and donations are appreciated. Take time to visit Indiana football history at the Indiana Football Hall of Fame.
I got this.
I got this.
I got this.
At Harrington Hogue, we believe your life belongs to you. That's why we work hard to make sure that your insurance coverage is the last thing you have to worry about. So when it comes to keeping you protected,
we got this.
Red Devils back home this week, and then they'll travel to Kokomo to finish out the regular season. As we mentioned before the break, Coach, Anderson comes to town. You kind of think, okay, all right, Anderson is struggling a little bit. You want to get a win. They want to get a win. Then you look at the scoreboard last week. They beat Tech. Talk a little bit about the Indians.
Well, I tell you, we just got done. We got the film last night, and they're playing a lot better. Their quarterback can throw it. The coach's son is one of their best receivers. They're starting to run the ball a little bit. It's obvious after watching film they want to throw the football, and they've got a good, strong-armed quarterback that can run as well. He scored a touchdown a long touchdown that got called back with a penalty. But from the films we have of them from earlier in the year to now, they have improved, as you mentioned. They beat Tech last night 12-8. Really could have scored another touchdown that got called back twice with penalties. So they're coming in with a lot of confidence after beating Tech. Obviously, that's a big win for them. It's, again, senior night for us. 2 1-6 squads that really want to get a win heading into the last week of the regular season. So I expect it to be a good game. Again, it's a next man up mentality for us. We're pretty thin, but the guys that are playing have to have great weeks of practice, and it all starts in practice. Our kids are still learning the fact that if you practice well, you're probably going to play well. If you don't practice well with good focus and good energy, you're probably not going to play well. So it's a learning process, and we're getting there. And hopefully, with Anderson coming in town, it's 2 1-6 teams that are competing for a second win.
I kind of look back at the most recent history with Anderson. I remember going up there one year, and we weren't too bad of a football team, and they ended up beating us there. They beat us in a sectional tournament. They probably, the mindset, listen, this is another win for us, and I know you probably feel the same way against them. This is a chance for us to get a win, get some momentum going, but they probably really feel after recent history they can come in here and beat you guys. Yeah,
obviously they beat us pretty bad last year, and coming off a Tech win, and obviously we did not fare well against Tech early in the year. So I'm sure looking at if you're comparing scores, it would be favorable to them, but we feel like, with it being a home game and we can play better than what we've played. We just got to be prepared, and it all starts with practice.
And those seniors, too, they've gone through a lot, haven't they? You think about the coaching changes and such, and then just trying to find ways to win football games. When they hang through that, I find those guys to be special guys.
They are, and we were just talking about that before we started the interview. We're down to 5 seniors. We lost a couple, one to grades and one to, unfortunately, not being with us any longer. So we have 5 seniors, and obviously, as a whole, the 35 guys that we have going right now, the other 30, we want to send those seniors out on a good note on senior night. So we're hoping for a big crowd, and we're hoping to play well and get another win on the board.
Heard you guys talking about who's in our sectional. That tournament draw is coming, isn't it?
It's coming this Sunday. So, obviously, probably in terms of record-wise, you're looking at Mooresville as one of the better teams in our sectional. Mount Vernon and Fortville, probably one of the better teams. And then you throw in Shelbyville and Newcastle and Connorsville and us and Greenwood. I may be missing one or two, but those are the teams in our sectional. So it's an interesting draw in Indiana. It's not like a lot of different states where it's based on your record. It's a blind draw, so it's very interesting. You can have the 2 best teams playing each other in the opening round of the sectional, or vice versa. So it really depends on the draw.
I'm going to have to ask you next week whether you like the tournament draw or not. You've been through it before, so you kind of know what it's all about.
Yeah.
So we'll maybe talk about that next week.
That sounds great.
All right, again, Red Devils and the Indians coming up on Friday night. We'll have the pregame at 6:30, kickoff at 7. All the action right here on Radio Troy Digital Sports.